0%. That's a real verdict on a gout claim with 3 flares a year and full range of motion between them. Before February 7, 2021, that same veteran was looking at 40. There's one line in the schedule that took a shortcut away from gout specifically, and almost nobody files knowing it's gone. Carry that with you.
Look at the code first. 5017. Michael here, and gout has its own number, which is exactly why people assume incapacitating exacerbations are still its criteria. They aren't.
Today we go deeper into what happens when the VA moves a condition from one rating theory to a completely different one.
Gout under the wrong theory means the wrong evidence. Seen it twice this month.
The old theory was incapacitating exacerbations. How many times a year the disease knocked you flat? 1 or 2 a year was 20%, 3 or more was 40. Severely incapacitating exacerbations 4 or more times a year was 60. That latter rewarded frequency, and frequency is exactly what gout does.
Then read 5002 today. Multi-joint arthritis except post-traumatic and gout. Gout is named in parentheses as an exception. It was written out of that ladder on purpose.
Erica, that's a quiet way to change how gout is rated and change somebody's check.
It is, and the replacement theory is degenerative arthritis, which measures something gout barely touches. If you want the plain language version with the code numbers side by side, it's free at va.richresourceful.com, along with the rating tools.
Before you finish, Erica, if the VA no longer counts gout flares, what does it measure instead?
Motion. It measures motion on a disease that comes and goes, and that swap is where the money went. Quick honest ask while we are here. If this has been worth your time so far, hit like, then subscribe and ring the bell. I know everyone asks, but this one is free, and it is how a small channel like this actually grows. The note says motion of the affected parts. That's the phrase, doing all the work now. Professor Antonov is at the desk to settle a disagreement we started before we were recording. Elias, the routing.
Hold on. The argument isn't whether gout is rated, it's what it's rated AS. There's a note covering codes 5013 through 5024, and it says evaluate these as degenerative arthritis based on limitation of motion of affected parts. Gout is 5017. It sits inside that block.
Look at what that means in a joint. Gout attacks. It swells and hurts enormously, then it resolves. Between attacks, the toe or the knee often moves fine.
So the C&P lands between flares and you get nothing.
It can't be that simple. Painful motion still counts for something, at least when the record catches it.
It does when it's objectively confirmed. The schedule wants swelling, muscle spasm, or satisfactory evidence of painful motion. A normal exam with a good history is not that.
Half right then. Painful motion counts, but only the half that got written down by somebody in a white coat.
That settles it. This per-joint rating route is not for you if no affected joint has limited motion or objectively confirmed painful motion. The disease is episodic and the measurement is a snapshot, and nothing in the schedule reconciles those two facts for you.
Look at the per-joint floor underneath all this. People miss it.
Under 5003, a joint can have non-compensable limitation of motion under its own code. A rating of 10% applies for each such major joint or group of minor joints affected by limitation of motion. So a knee that moves almost normally can still carry 10.
Combined, that's $180.42 a month.
Which I'd have told you was a consolation prize, and I want to walk that back. It's a consolation prize per joint. Gout rarely stays in one place. 2 major joints affected is 2 10s.
Combined though, not added. 10 and 10 combined to 19, and 19 rounds to 20. $356.66, not $361.
Michael, that's still real money for a normal-looking exam. So why does anyone end up at 0?
And the thing that unlocks it is the word affected. The 10% is for each joint affected by limitation of motion, so every joint gout has been and belongs in the claim by name, not just the one that hurt worse the week you filed. Log in and list them.
Before we get to what the examiner must see, hold that phrase, each joint affected. There's a second rule that looks like it should help and specifically doesn't. Elias is still with us. This is the X-ray findings line I promised at the top.
5003 has a second path. In the absence of limitation of motion, X-ray evidence of 2 or more major joints gets 10% and 20% if there are occasional incapacitating exacerbations.
There it is. The exacerbations shortcut survived.
Nova, this is the way back in. We file the X-ray route and the flare history finally counts.
You can't. Note 2. It bars exactly the block gout sits in, and the bar is explicit.
Correct. The note says those X-ray-based ratings will not be utilized in rating conditions listed under diagnostic codes 5013 to 5024 inclusive. Gout is inside that range.
So read what that stacks up to. Gout lost the flare ladder in 2021, and the one remaining place the schedule still pays for exacerbations is the one place gout is explicitly not allowed to go.
Twice then. It got closed out twice.
Which means every hour you spend documenting how often it flares is an hour spent on a criterion nobody will read.
Elias, thank you. Note 2 is the sharpest thing anyone brought to this desk today, and it's the part I'd never have found by reading the code alone.
Then ask them what a flare is worth documenting for. I'd want to hear that answer.
So answer Elias. What is a flare worth documenting for? Not frequency. Objectively confirmed findings.
Look at the sentence itself. Limitation of motion must be objectively confirmed by findings such as swelling, muscle spasm, or satisfactory evidence of painful motion. Here are the 3 things, all visible to somebody else, not felt by you, seen by them.
Which is why a clean exam after the flare misses it, Erica.
Say more than that. You're telling people to go to a clinic while they can barely walk, and I want you to defend it because that's a hard thing to ask.
Stop right there, that's my lane. It's hard and it's the whole claim. A gout flare is the only time the objective findings exist. The joint is visibly swollen. It resists movement. Someone can measure a reduced range and write down why. Wait 2 weeks and the swelling is gone, the motion is back, and there is nothing left to confirm. $356.66 a month can turn on whether one appointment happened during the flare instead of after it.
Urgent care counts. It's a dated medical record.
It does, and photographs of the joint with a date on them support it without replacing it. The examiner still has to be the one who measures. Which brings us to the exam snapshot and the 20 minutes that decide it.
The examiner measures the joint in front of them on the day they see it. If today is a good day, today's numbers are good numbers and they go on the form.
So you name every joint and tell them about repeated use. 40% of people forget.
Where's 40% from?
Nowhere. I made the number up out of a feeling. Withdrawn.
Good. The honest version is that we don't have a figure for how often people forget. We don't need one. What we know is what the schedule asks for, a description of what the joint does during and after a flare, in plain language and on the record.
Don't argue frequency. If you carry one number out of this episode, carry the 10. 10% per affected joint for motion that isn't even compensable on its own. That's the floor most gout claims should be landing on and don't, because only one joint got listed.
One joint on the form, one joint in the rating.
Elias is back with us to close this one out. Michael, list the joints in the claim you keep describing off-air.
Take a veteran in the sourced case file, 60s, retired Air Force maintenance, gout in both big toes for years and then it moved. He brings a folder of flare dates going back 4 years, and he gets—
Wait, 4 years of dates and no exam during one?
Not one, that's the hinge. Every date was a day he stayed home. He documented the disease perfectly and the rating code's criterion not at all.
That folder would have won under the old ladder. It is nearly worthless under this one, and nobody told him the theory changed.
Same flare dates, different decade.
Elias, thank you. The note 2 bar is the thing I'll be repeating to people all year.
Read the note before the code. Always.
Here's my honest read on whether this is worth your time. If gout is your only condition and it's genuinely mild between flares, this claim may land at 10% and stay there. And 10% is not going to change your year. There are bigger fish on your list. But gout travels. If it's been in 3 joints and you've only ever claimed 1, the gap could be real money under the per joint rule if each joint meets the criteria, and the fix is a list and 1 well-timed appointment. That's my verdict.
Say the 2 things. People are already reaching for the form.
2 things to carry. Gout is no longer rated on how often it flares. It's rated on limitation of motion, with a 10% floor for each affected joint. And the X-ray shortcut that still pays for exacerbations is closed to it by note 2. If this saved you from filing the wrong evidence, hit like and subscribe so the next veteran sees it before their exam. I'll answer it myself first. I'd have brought the folder of dates too, and I'd have been wrong. So here's what I want from you. Was your gout rated on 1 joint when it has been in 3? Read the note before the code. I'm Professor Erica, and I'll see you at the next one.